It was supposed to happen to Flynne's timeline very far in the future, until Cherise sped up time to kill Flynne. Why take such a big step? We know she doesn't care about other people, but she's also intelligent, so every sting has about 1,000 steps. In this video, we'll discuss the ending of The Peripheral and how the show upends two sci-fi cliches. First off, The Peripheral ending explained. Ash and Ocean find something interesting in the second to last episode. In episode 1, Elita stole information from the Research Institute. This information was put into Flynne in the form of bacterial DNA. They planned to give the Neoprims don't like how the world's run now that Jackpot put the Kleps and the RI on top. But they were tricked by Lev, who said he'd kill them if they didn't help him get it back. Ash goes to Cherise, the head of the RI, because she wants to be persistent. She thinks that Cherise is the lesser of two evils, but Cherise's actions are blunter than she expected. In Flynne's version of 2032, Cherise decides to hit the jackpot. She's been using the 2032 stub as a testing ground for anti-jackpot measures, so this is risky, but she's willing to destroy valuable research to make the jackpot happen because the data in Flynne's body are made up of bacteria. Up next, Flynne has herself shot on purpose. In the jackpot in 2099, the explosion of the silo in Flynne's home county of Clanton County is mentioned as an important historical event. Setting it off now wouldn't destroy the 2032 stub, but it would kill everyone living there. Ash tells Flynne about this because she feels terrible about it. Flynne then takes matters into her own hands. She joins forces with Inspector Ainsley Lobier of the Met Police. Together, they devise a plan for Flynne to die in the original 2032 stub and for her to continue living in a new 2032 stub. If she died, the bacterial DNA would be gone, and Cherise wouldn't have to kill Clanton in the first timeline. You ask, what about the bacterial DNA that is in her in the new 2032 stub? Good question. One, we're sure, will be dealt with in season 2. In the meantime, during the first season, Flynne has Connor shoot her so that the Met Police can take credit for her death. Her death's set up in a way that makes it look like Inspector Ainsley did it. Flynne does this so that Cherise thinks Ainsley is on her side. He does this to hide the fact that he and Ainsley are working together to bring down the RI. Followed by, is Corbel Pickett dead? Tommy's in a bit of a pickle because of Bob Pickett. In the last episode, Bob got away from Pickett, but he killed Pickett's wife in the process. He then finished the job he had been given by killing Flynne and Burton, but he did it wrong and killed himself. But the fact that he killed Mrs. Pickett before he died has made Corbel very angry, so he asks Sheriff Jackman for help. Corbel wants to kill Bob, but he doesn't know that Burton already did. He wants to blame Bob's arrival in Clanton on the Fishers by saying that they were involved in illegal drug activities, and that's why someone sent a hitman after them. This satisfies Corbel's desire for revenge and makes sure he can get the rewards that Bob couldn't get for catching and most likely killing the Fishers. Moving on to Tommy's change of heart. But when Jackman tells Tommy to arrest the Fishers, Tommy has a change of heart and ends up killing Jackman instead. He tries to kill Corbel, but the tough old goat falls asleep, and Tommy has to figure out what to do next. Does he kill Corbel to hide his tracks or let him live? Let's learn more about what happened between Elita and Wilf and the port credit scene. Wilf finally finds his long-lost sister, but their happy reunion's ruined when Wilf discovers the sad truth Elita learned when she took out the implant that blocked her memories. Elita says that she and Wilf lost their families because of the Klept. This happened after a massacre to eliminate a disease that killed 5 million people in England, including them. She now wants to get back at the Klept and has put together a group of dedicated people who want to take them down. All they need is the information in Flynne's DNA to do it. In the post-credits, Lev thinks he's going to see his father, but instead, he runs into 3 other older Klept members. They tell Lev to cauterize the wound, which means to kill anything connected to the 2032 stub. Lev seems to hesitate. This could be because he doesn't want to kill Wilf, who he cares about. After all, everyone else is just cannon fodder to him. But since he's a good Klept, we think he'll follow through, which is terrible news for Season 2. Now, let's look at how the finale upends 2 sci-fi cliches. The first season was a wild ride through issues like environmentalism, fascism, war, and technology that will probably take a long time to understand fully. But the show has also been about video games in general, and virtual reality in particular. Yes, virtual reality can be a kind of telepresence time travel to an alternate universe, but virtual reality stays close to the story's center the whole time. It's up to you to decide if that game influenced the production designers or if they just had the same style, because Cyberpunk owes a lot to William Gibson. More than that, the Prime timeline treats the stub where Flynne lives a lot like a simulation. It's a sandbox where they can try out new ideas and technologies. The results seem very real to the people in the Peripheral, but they don't affect the real world. The only way to get from one timeline to another is through the Peripheral robotic bodies. The stub could have just as quickly been a very realistic computer simulation as it could have been an alternate timeline for the story. Coming up, what happens if you die in the game? If you die in the game, you die in real life, is one of those lines that makes us feel a little sad every time we hear it. Still, even though there's one exception, the die in real life twist in a story's never very convincing. Still, the Peripheral had every right to use this plot device. First, it's not just a virtual reality helmet like in The Matrix. It's a complex neural interface that links you to a real place in another universe. Why wouldn't bad things that happen there hurt you so much that your body becomes a drooling shell? But no, when characters from the stub get their peripherals beaten up, shot, or thrown off tall buildings, they wake up back home with nothing more than a minor psychological trauma. In the future, people may hire killers to come and shoot you in real life. But if you have a cool VR helmet on, you can dance in the middle of traffic and nothing terrible will happen. Next, death isn't a good stake. And the thing is, we know why the die in real life twist is in those other stories. It's to make the story more interesting, except that death isn't a perfect stake, because death's rarely the real problem in a story. When we watch Die Hard, we don't worry that John McClane will get shot when we watch Die Hard. Instead, we worry about whether he'll become emotionally vulnerable enough to make up with his wife. Finally, what matters on screen? We don't have to worry about Flynne, Burton, and Connor's lives or deaths when they are in the background. Instead, we worry about how knowing the future will affect Flynne, how Connor will feel in his new body, and how the relationship between Flynne and Burton will change. We're worried about how they'll change their future world and what they'll do with what they've learned when they return to their own world. The real stakes of the story are the world, the people they care about, and how they're connected to each other. These are the real stakes of almost any story you can think of. Personal danger is rarely our biggest concern, even when lives are at risk. And on that note, that's a wrap for this video. What do you think of Flynne's death and how the finale challenged 2 sci-fi cliches? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.